So number 19 says the high school baseball team is having a fundraiser at a restaurant. The function f of x equals 4x models the amount of money that the restaurant will donate to the team if x customers purchase dinner. The restaurant agrees to donate a maximum of 500 to the team. What is the most appropriate domain of the function? Now for this one, I really haven't talked about domain or range. I usually do more of the domain conversation when we get to quadratics. So this one, most of you would have gotten this one wrong, but domain means x value. Okay, so they're basically asking you for the x value. So they're saying that your maximum is 500. So that means equals 500. That's how much they're going to equal. That's the maximum. Okay, so obviously it's going to have to be less than that. So you want to make it equal to 500, and then you want to solve for x. So you're left with x equals 125. Okay? So they're saying that the maximum amount of x values or dinners will be 125. So obviously it's going to have to be B. Okay? Another way of solving this, you could go to y equals, type in 4x, and then go to second graph, and then look to where you'll get 500 on the y. So of course you're going to have to go all the way down, keep scrolling all the way down. You will keep going. You see you're right now at the 100s. You got to get to 500 for the y. Okay? So if you keep going and going, we're almost there. So you keep going, going, and there you go, 500. So the maximum amount of dinners, it will be 125. Okay? Uh, 20. Which graph represents y equals 1/2 x minus 2? Well, the y-intercept is -2. The slope is 1/2. So let's start by eliminating the graphs that do not have a y-intercept of -2. So A is good. B, it's gone. C is good. D is also good. Okay. Now, next thing is that my slope is positive, so it's supposed to be increasing. So A is increasing. C is increasing. D is decreasing, so D is out. Now I'm going to have to find the slope. I got to see which one has a slope of 1/2. So I'm going to use this point and this point right there for this one. So the rise is 1 and the run is 2. So rise over the run is 1/2. So that's the slope. So my answer is A. Okay, moving on. What is the y-intercept of the line that passes through the points 1, 0 to -2? Well, for this one, you have your calculator. So what I would do is I would go to stat edit, type in the first order pair, and then the second will be 2, -2. Okay? So now go to stat, calculate, option number 4, enter, 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 and your y-intercept is 2. Okay? So your answer is D. Moving on. Maria compared the slope of function f of x and the slope of the g of x table. Which best describes the slopes of the two functions? Okay? So let's compare f of x versus g of x. So remember, the f of x is the equation, g of x is the table. So let's start. And we're looking for the slope. So the slope for this one, before I can get the slope, I have to get rid of the parentheses. So what is 1/3 times -6? That would be 2x. And then -1/3 times -21 is +7. So looking at this, my slope is 2 because that's the number in front of the x. Now let's look for the table. Now obviously there's a table. I have my calculator, so I might as well just go to stat, edit, let the calculator do the hard work. So remember, the x is -4, that's the first column, -2, 0, 2, 4. Second column is 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Stat, calculate, option number 4, enter, 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 and your slope is -0.5. Okay, so both functions have a positive slope. Nope. Both are negative. Nope. Function f of x is positive, g of x is negative. Yes. So my answer is C. Moving on. Ellison compared the y-intercept of those two things. Which was true? Well, let's compare f of x versus g of x. So once again, f of x is the equation, g of x is the table. So let's start with the equation. What's the y-intercept? Well, that's the number without the x, which is +4. Okay? What about g of x? Well, once again, I'm going to use my calculator, go to stat, edit, and type that table in, and let the calculator do the hard work, okay? That's why I taught you this trick, so you can use it during this time. And there you go. Your slope is 5 and your y-intercept is 8. So the one I'm looking for is the 8. So let's see which one's true. G of x is half of f of x. Is this half of that? Nope. That doesn't count. G of x is 2 times f of x. Yep. This is twice the amount. So the answer is B. Okay. And if you look at the other one, C, it says they're equal. That's wrong. And D says that g of x is negative. Nope, that's wrong. So obviously the only answer that makes sense will be B. Now, let's move on. 24. The graph of which equation passes through the points -8, 10 to -5. I will start off by putting my order pairs in a table. -8, 10. to -5. Now take your stat, edit, and let it do the hard work. So -8, 2, 10, -5. Stat, calculate, option number 4. Enter, enter, enter. And your equation is going to be -1.5 minus 2. And obviously -1.5 is 3/2. So your answer comes out to be B. Now, if you wanted to, you could do that -1.5 math, enter, enter, and it gives it to you -3/2, okay? So your equation is D. Okay, number 25 is a literal equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by rewriting the problem down here so I can have some space. Now, we're solving for f, obviously. So first thing I need to do is get rid of the fraction. So times 9 to both sides. So this gets rid of the fraction. So 9 times c is 9c. Then we're left with 5 times f minus 32. Now I'm going to divide by 5 because the opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing. So I'm left with 9/5 c equals, and of course these 5's are gone, and I'm just left with f minus 32. Now obviously we're not multiplying anything with f minus 32, so the parentheses just go away. Now the opposite of a minus 32 will become a plus 32. Obviously this is a variable, this is a constant, can't combine them, so I'm going to do 9/5 c plus 32 equals f, because this 32 is gone. So if you match up your answer is C. Okay, moving on to 26. A phone company charges a $45 monthly fee of 500 minutes of phone use. For each minute over 500, the phone company charges an additional 8 cents. Which equation can be used to determine the total amount the company charges? So, okay, first and foremost, let's start off. We can agree that the slope is 0.08. That is a given because they're charging you for every minute past the 500. Now, the problem is 45 and the 500, that doesn't tell you your y-intercept. That gives you an ordered pair. They're saying that minutes is 500 and they're going to charge $45. Okay? So as you can tell, they gave you an order pair and a slope, and they're asking you to create an equation. So if you remember, first thing I need to do is find the slope. Now remember, you might ask yourself, before I move forward, you might ask yourself, well, how do I know when it's the y-intercept? The y-intercept, when it's given to you in a word problem, they're either going to say, this is the initial value, this is the starting value, or it might say that this is the zero value. So like 0 hours, 0 months, whatever you're dealing with, it will be the 0. Now, if it says they're charging you for the first hour, that doesn't count as the y-intercept. The first hour is the first hour. It's not the 0 hour, because remember, the y-intercept is the starting value. When you start, it's at 0, okay, or the initial value. So you got to be very careful with that. So with that being said here, my slope obviously is 0.08. Next thing I need to do is find the y-intercept. Well, I'm going to use these two pieces of information, the slope and the point. The point is your x and your y. So using y equals mx plus b, I'm going to plug that in. So 45 equals 500 times 0.08 plus b. Now, obviously, I switched them. The m is supposed to be outside, and the x is supposed to be inside the parentheses, but it really doesn't matter because 3 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 3. So that was just a mistake, but hopefully you can follow along. So anyways, when you multiply those two, you get 40 plus b equals 45. Now, the opposite of positive 40 is a minus 40. So the letter B comes out to be 5. So now, of course, you just got to write your equation. And your y-intercept is 5. Your slope is 0.8 or 0.08. So y equals 0.08x plus 5. So there's your equation. Now let's start off. A, obviously that's not in. Now if you notice, the other 3 answer choices have parentheses, so that means I have to work them out. So let's start with answer choice B, okay? 45 minus 0.08 m minus 500. So I got to get rid of the parentheses. So negative 0.08 times m is negative 0.08 m. And then negative 0.08 times negative 500 gives me 40. So 45 plus 40 gives me 85. And then bring down your negative 0.08 m. Obviously, that's completely different than the equation we're looking for, so it's not B. Okay. Moving on to answer choice C. And I'm moving around because I'm running out of space, but wherever you have space, you can work them out. So C is 0.08 times m minus 500 plus 45. So I want to distribute. So 0.08 times m is 0.08 m, and then 0.08 times 500, and it's negative 500, you get negative 40, and then plus 45. So negative 40 plus 45 gives you 5, and then bring down your 0.08 m. And as you can notice, as you can tell, it's the same equation. The only difference is the variable is different. So my answer is C. That's the one that matches. Okay, moving on. 27. 27 is a pretty easy one. It says Sarah purchased a manufacturing machine worth 30,000 for her factory. So 30,000 is your initial value. Initial value. So in other words, this is your y-intercept. The value of the machine decreases every year. So decreases every year should be your slope. Okay? So that means your y-intercept is 30,000. Your slope is negative 1,250 because it's decreasing, so it's going to be negative. So that means your equation is y equals 30,000 minus 1,250x. Okay? Or you could write it the other way, but the reason I wrote it out like this is because they have the variable at the end instead of the beginning. So anyways, you can tell that the answer is B.